Welcome back. As you've seen there, Hamza Lawal joins us next. He is the Chief Executive of Connected Development and founder Follow the Money. He joins us virtually from Bonn. Good morning and thank you for joining us on the program here today. Well, today is the day that INEC lifts the lid on campaigns for political parties. So a lot is expected from different groups, different bodies, different agencies. Well, civil society appear to be weighing in as well to ensure we have peaceful campaigns build up to the elections ultimately will be huge. So for you, welcome to a lot of young people as well. What would you consider germane or important to ensuring that we'll stay the course, ensure that the campaign rhetorics are civil and ensure they don't inflame the system?
Well, thank you, Chamberlain, and good morning. It's an exciting moment for Nigeria's political history and our democracy. And for us as young people, we want to ensure and we want to believe that the campaigns would focus on issues around jobs. You know, today we have high rate of unemployment. You cannot curb social vices if you don't proactively engage young people and keep them busy so that they can contribute their quota in nation building. We're dealing with insecurity. So how can their messages, their ideas, relate to our current insecurity challenges? Also, healthcare. Today we're still dealing with maternal mortality and newborn death. So what are their ideas? What are their solutions around dealing with these issues? Education. So the recent statistics says, over 10 million children are out of school. How are they going to ensure these children go back to school and actually stay in school? What are their plans on investing in infrastructure? So for us and for me particularly, I'm excited, but I believe and I'm optimistic that they would focus on issue-based campaign, that issues that affect you and I collectively, and in Nigeria that everyone feels that it's a project that he or she can contribute towards it.
Well, if you look through some of these materials, look, the youth hold the key, and let me show you why, which you've seen before as well. According to this completed registration as at the 1st of August, released by INEC. Now, if you look at that, you see the demographic, the distribution by age group. Youths make up the largest chunk, 18 to 34 years old. That's about 8,784,677, followed by the middle age, 2 million odd, and then it goes that way. So for those who say, look, whichever way the pendulum swings, the youths have got themselves to blame.
Oh, yes. So the youths are now the force. And, the interesting part is the youths have always been the force. Because when we went into 2019 elections, you have over 50%, of eligible voters are young people. But now the exciting part is with the continual voters registration, an opportunity for first-time voters. So truly, we are now the force as young people. And if you watch, some of my campaigns, even before I traveled to Germany, we started a door-to-door, house-to-house campaign. As much as the youth is the force, we need to get the votes out. Before now, we've always experienced voter apathy because of the lack of trust and because of insecurity. But getting us to ensure and enforce that stand that we decide the fate of Nigeria, because right now, the power is in our hands. So for us is to get the vote out on election day, organize ourselves better, and maybe have a consensus as we go into 2023. Because for me, again, for us to be that force that every politician, every political party reckons with, we must come together. We must do away with the whole silos, come together, have some sort of conversation and dialogue, and come up with a consensus. And this conversation that has started, which I'm part of, to say that, can we look at all these candidates that are running for office? We currently know that the script is currently not working for us. And we're saying we need to flip the script so that Nigeria can achieve the Sustainable Development Goal, the 2030 Development Agenda. But it must start politically. And 2023 provides a unique opportunity where we can provide landslide victory for whoever becomes the consensus candidate for young people in Nigeria. Because see, we can't say the power is in our hands and then we will just, throw it away. No, we've learned from experience how we've been sidelined. And for me, we need a government that looks like you and I. Gone are the days where you just have older people in the corridors of power. And mind you, I'm not saying that we should retire all the older politicians, but I want a politics in Nigeria. I want a governance in Nigeria that is inclusive, that is participatory, but most importantly, this intergenerational equity and dialogue. This year, Team for International Youth, they talked about intergenerational solidarity. And I believe that we can enforce this as we go into 2023 election. And now as the campaign season have started. So what are their message for young people? Can we relate to those messages? If they say, oh, my cabinet will be 50% of young people, what is their definition of youth and young people? Are we going to look at 80 and 70-year-old people still call themselves youths around the corridors of power? Or they're looking at 35, they're looking at 45. They're looking at young people with track record, young people with ideals, with values, with experience to contribute to Nigeria's growth and development.
Give us a scenario, give us a picture. I mean, where are we in this scheme of things in terms of talking about inclusion, diversity, ensuring that we're not leaving anyone behind? So where are we at the moment? How much more work do we need to do to achieve at least an acceptable scenario?
I think we've not done pretty well. When you look at how we came from the Millennium Development Goal and looking at the post-2015 development agenda, which I informed with some of our meeting with Ban Ki-moon, who was the then United Nations Secretary General. And now with the Sustainable Development Goal and leaving no one behind. When you look at our political atmosphere, I will start with the political party. And let's even go back to when the nomination of the party nomination form, expression of interest and nomination form came out. It wasn't it was all about money. And that's the sad reality of Nigeria's politics. It's always hell-bent with money. So look at the prices, particularly for the dominant political party. It was crazy. One, a lot of women could not have sex this form. A lot of youth cannot afford this form because, again, service is not about money. Service is about giving back and contributing to your country. So when you look at inclusion and diversity, the political atmosphere, we're not doing well. Women are being sidelined. People with disability are being sidelined. Young people, ideas and capacity are being sidelined. So we've not done well politically to even connect to the, leaving no one behind and the 2030 development agenda. But I believe we have an opportunity to flip the script and change the trajectory. If they don't listen to us, we would send a clear message at the poll. And speaking of different groups that have even started, this conversation, looking at, okay, what should inform our politics and the 2023 poll outcome? You have, the Go Nigeria, put together, by ANAP Foundation. You have the We Together movement. We have, the Green Nigeria movement. There's been a series of conversations to ensure inclusion, to ensure diversity. Nigeria is a unique country, with diverse people, with very, proud historians. So we need to ensure that people feel a sense of belonging in the Federal Republic of Nigeria and take their own role and ensure that they properly engage. So for me, if these politicians do not listen, we would make them listen when we go to the polls, because we actually decide what becomes of the outcome of this election. In short, the Nigerian youth would determine who becomes the next president. Not the political party, because right now there's no force. The only force is the youth force. And we must ensure that we take that mantle and come to think of it, and I'm excited about how INEC has integrated technology with BFAS, electronic transmission of results and the accreditation.
Mr. Lawal, so just one quick one before we go on, if you can hear me.
You can see
just a quick one before we go on that tangent. Just a second, Mr. Lawal, if you can hear me. Perhaps there's a need for us all to understand, for people to understand the nature of government. When we employ, for instance, we don't vote for ministers. We don't vote for heads of ministries, departments, and agencies. We don't vote for the CBN governor. We don't vote for the Comptroller General of Customs. We don't vote for the head of immigration. We don't vote for the people who are supposed to work in the ministries, the civil servants. Okay. So in terms of getting the system to work, you spoke about inclusion. Where are we, and perhaps aping the question that Chamberlain asked about where are we, in terms of the machinery of government deployed or not deployed to tackle hunger, to tackle poverty, to tackle inclusion issues? Exactly what, in your opinion, are the issues here? Because this, SDG was signed, is it 2015 or thereabout? But the Millennium Development Goals that came before that one, we didn't quite do very well as well. And this SDG is just about 8 years before it expires. So in terms of the machinery of government to get these things done, what's your assessment? Because it's devoid of political parties here.
I totally agree with you. And see, we've learned from the Millennium Development Goal, and we need to take these lessons to the Sustainable Development Goal. We've made a commitment, to the world, to our people in Nigeria, and have signed on to the the Sustainable Development Goal. Yes, I know that some of these heads of MDAs and the ministers are appointed position, and come to think of it, we all cannot run for political office. But what this means is we all can rally around someone who we know collectively would carry everyone along and would leave no one behind. Someone with apathy, someone with experience and track record, someone who has done it before and who is willing to do it on a larger scale. Someone who understands that, there's a role for young people, there's a role for women, there's a deliberate role for people with disability. So we are saying that, see, yes, everything starts from the head. If we get that someone today who becomes the president of the Federal Republic, that informed by young people, by the way, putting in office, then we can start getting heads of these parastatals and ministers who would actually come into office to serve. Because you come to think of it, Nigeria, pre-colonial era, during the military regime, and even in our democratic dispensation, what we've had over time are rulers, people who come into office and feel like they're lords, they're demigods. We need people that are humble to understand that politics and leadership is about service. It's about ensuring that you bring ideas and solutions. So come to think of it, the world is lacking in ideas. And when you look at how the world came out of COVID-19 pandemic, so it's not about, even having, you saying you're the world leader. No, it's about ideas. And it's about building trust amongst both government and the politicians and the people that they serve. If we can get a head or a head figure who becomes the president, who can rally around everyone, traditional religious leaders, civil society, the media, the private sector, the international community, and then maybe we can start getting it right. But it starts politically, because it is the political agenda that sets the development agenda into workforce. And you see, we have different communities. You have the political community, you have the civil society community, you have the private sector, you have, the religious and traditional community. You need someone who can bring all these communities together that inform the Federal Republic of Nigeria. See, today, we've experienced and we're experiencing what we've never in our even imagination think would happen. The disunity, the apathy, the hunger, the inequality is too much. And we must close this inequality gap. And we're saying this current script is not working. It's not about political parties. It's not about any politician. It is about the Federal Republic of Nigeria. See, when I travel and as I continue to engage world leaders, people don't care if I'm a Muslim or a Hausa Fulani man or where I'm from. What they're concerned about is I represent the Federal Republic of Nigeria. My passport says the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So we must understand that Nigeria must come first. And if each and every one of us put Nigeria before anything else.
Yes, so you've made a valid point there, Mr. Lawal, about bringing communities together. And I'd like to relate that to, the participation of women in the Nigerian leadership space, or the lack of it, if we would address it more specifically. I also refer to the demography of the recently released INEC continuous voter registration exercise. And women have a voting bloc. 50% of the newly registered 12.5 million entrants, that's 6.22 million, well above 49.4 who happen to be male. But based on the off-cycle elections that have been conducted and the political activities, that were just concluded, do you think that the Nigerian women have that sense of purpose to use this voting bloc to ensure that they vote into office leaders who would commit to the implementation of the 35% affirmative action for women?
My sister, it is only the women bloc that even have a sense of purpose, direction, and that level of consensus. See, it is unprecedented. We've never seen organizing and mobilizing and, sensitization like this before, particularly around the women bloc. And I think that, the government of the day have sent a strong signal and message. And if you look at what happened at the National Assembly, rejecting some of the very gender sensitive and friendly bill, 5 of them thrown out of the, by the leadership of the National Assembly. And I think that as we go into the general election, and I think women have now realized, the youth and the women bloc inform who becomes, our president and governors and various, elective offices. I think that yes, they have a sense of purpose. It's a shame and it's a sad reality that today in Nigeria's political history and journey, we do not understand that women have an important role to play. And come to think of it, no politician, male, should decide the role of women. Let women decide their role and let women inform their role. And I think if we understand that as a society, that the role of women is the front seat and not relegating them, and probably we would, change the course of history. And you see, that's why I think some of these politicians say, let's not teach history in school. Women are natural leaders and have always led in Nigeria. Do you want me to tell us the story of Amina, the Queen Amina of Zazzau? Or do you want us to talk about the Chimamanda Adichie of today, or Madam Amina J. Muhammad, or Madam Ngozi? These are people leading and showing example globally. For me, it's really sad that we're not tapping into that very important bloc who has ideas, who can unite our country, and who can serve, with empathy, with courage, and with the belief that Nigeria can actually deliver than what we have currently. And that's why I say that when we have, and if probably we can agree to some sort of consensus between the youth and the women bloc, and probably we can start getting it right and inform, the affirmative action and the role of young people as intergenerational leadership within our political atmosphere.
All right, then Hamza Lawal, Chief Executive, Connected Development, and founder of Follow the Money. Thank you very much indeed for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll be back in I think we should have a message or two, but just give us a moment. We'll be back.